Welcome back to Puppetry Chat. Today we're going to be talking about puppets on TikTok with Chris Palmieri. Stick around. And welcome to the show, Chris. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Adam. Thanks so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thanks so much for coming on. You know, I know we connected on TikTok, and I was very fascinated with a lot of the stuff you do, because it's a very different. It's puppetry in a way that I've not really seen it done before. Because it's very the way that you make your puppets. They all manipulate in different ways, and really, most importantly, the way that you're using TikTok, I thought was really interesting. So I thought it'd be cool if we kind of had a conversation and an opportunity for people to kind of peek in and see what we're all doing, and I thought it'd be a fun way to connect with you.
Absolutely, I thought so too. And when you invited me on, you had asked, like, do I have an idea of what we could talk about? And what I'm really interested in is how platforms like TikTok can kind of reshape the art form of puppetry. Either they have or they may, because it's very much clear that that's happening with other art forms like dance and music. You know, with the vertical frame, you have dancers doing a lot of choreography that has a lot more to do with arms than with steps, which makes it easier for someone like me to learn them because I'm terrible with my feet. You know, and a lot of my friends in the music business are saying that people are trying to write songs that are 15 seconds long or with a good 15-second chunk to go viral on TikTok. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, you know, I'll be honest too. You know, the whole vertical video thing was something I fought for a long time, especially being someone who makes things for YouTube, things for Facebook, and things like that. And it just seemed like if you wanted your content to have longevity, you had to do the horizontal frame. But it does kind of seem like that might be changing in the future. Do you think it's actually going to change like that?
I think it's almost going to become like just two separate kinds of video art, right? Like, because I was very much in that camp too. I've been making stuff on YouTube like since YouTube started almost, and I love the cinematic look of like a wide screen.
Of course,
but at the same time, when you look at the way smartphones are, it's almost like we've just been fighting it. It's like you got to turn it. You got to turn it, and it's almost like the American money, where the rest of the world has vertical money because that's how we handle bills. And America doesn't. So TikTok was finally like, no, this is the frame we're working with, and work with that. And I think that's it's challenging. I don't know if it's better, but it creates a new world of things you can do a little bit.
Yeah, it does. You know, I would say the hardest thing about it, and one thing that I think a lot of, I guess I'd say, older school content creators don't like about it is it's not as easy for them to recycle some of their material. You know, take their YouTube videos, put it on. You see people do it where it's all cropped or really extra zoomed in, and just most people just swipe on by it because they can tell it's not native content. But it's interesting, and same the other way. You know, it's hard to take your TikTok stuff and throw it up on YouTube in the same way for that same reason. It is so different like that.
Absolutely. And I think they're starting to diverge. I mean, but I kind of feel like there's something about the short form video that works really nicely for the vertical. And I feel like longer form video may continue. I don't know, but it's hard for me to imagine like feature films shot vertically, for example, although maybe someone will do it just to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. I think it's almost like we're splitting off. Like there's short form video, and it's got that fun poppy, just like swipe around and what comes up sort of vibe. And then you've got like, we'll go sit down and watch something on the television.
Yeah, you know, that is interesting to say too, because I'm pretty sure there probably has been a full movie. I mean, someone's probably done it by now, right? But nothing mainstream, like you're saying too. But you know what? I can see a world where it's like, because even myself, more and more, I'm watching more than ever on my phone than I am even on my television at home. So I could see a world where actually, have you seen the Facebook portals, the ones that are freestanding, how they can turn this way or this way? Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's kind of like those screens. You can push it either way. I wonder if that's how the TVs will be in the future too. You hit a button, it's like, oh, let's go into portrait mode. Let's go into a landscape mode. And
I can definitely imagine that.
I could definitely imagine that too. But one more thing, another thing I wanted to get into. We can come back to that as well too.
Sure.
Is just you've seemed to very much gravitated toward TikTok as well. What is it about TikTok specifically as a platform outside of just the vertical video? Because it seems like that's probably the least of the point that draws you to it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think as a person, like I said, I had a small following on YouTube in high school and in college, and then I kind of just sort of let that go. But I've been, taking in content, all kinds of content across multiple platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Vine was a thing a little bit. And what TikTok seems to be doing really well, and this has definitely been said before, but like anyone can get on there and make something. I mean, I'll say of quality. Sometimes it's not, but just something. Is it clever? Is it funny? Is it new? Or is it just weird? Whatever it is. And there's a chance that people will see it and you can actually get traction. Whereas I do think it's a lot harder with the way the algorithms are on other platforms. I mean, Instagram is in so many ways a very similar platform, and yet you don't have that same level of discovery.
Sure. Well, I and maybe there's something that I don't know, but that's generally how it is for every platform when they're newer like that.
Yeah.
Too, because they're hungry for content.
Right.
From that standpoint. But because even Instagram, 5 years ago had a lot of reach like that too.
That's true.
And then as the platforms grow, there's become so much content. If there's 1 million users and 1 million pieces of content, pretty much everyone's going to see everything. Now we have a point where there's I'm just making up numbers off the top, 50 million people on Instagram, and there's 1 billion, content points. So everything can't go to everyone in the same way. And well, even I don't know, have you noticed it? Because even myself, the TikTok is still really great for growth and for exactly what you said, but it seems less so than it was a year ago. Would you agree with that or not really?
I would agree, and I'm definitely glad that I got on it and started really posting regularly, like about 6, 7, 8 months ago, because unquestionably, because we have the Creator Fund now, there's more people on than ever. They're creating more content. And they definitely, I haven't seen any direct evidence that being in the fund hampers your views, but I think the existence of the fund has changed. They've changed the algorithm across the board. Whether you're in it or not, you're going to have these big swings in views where some days it's like very little, and then some days you just blow up, and it's very unpredictable. And I think that you're right that all platforms kind of settle out a little bit, but I think getting on it at that early stage that you and I have gotten on, it allows you to build it up a little bit, and then hopefully get a few more followers on YouTube and Instagram and all that too, and then jump on the next thing whenever it is something.
No, absolutely. No, I definitely agree with you. Well, that kind of goes with anything. It's always that risk of being an early adopter to something when it's looking back, I'm sure we both wish we were on it when it was Musical.ly, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, imagine what it would be like now. But back then it was like, oh no, that's never going to be anything. That's never going to be it. And then you never know. So that's it's the old saying, the cliche. You miss 100% of the chances you don't take. Everyone jumps on. I remember doing the same thing for Instagram.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't want to go on this. No, I'm not gonna. And then you go on. And then it's like, okay, before we know it, everyone's gonna have their TikToks, and by then it's too late. It's never too late. Do it. It's never too late to do it, but you miss the gravy train by then.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think what's interesting about it too is like you're going to get to a point like now it's very much like if you talk to especially the younger folks that are on TikTok, like the idea of like Facebook is for old people. Yeah. Full stop. It is not a thing that young people are on anymore. And I'm still on Facebook. I know we're friends on Facebook, and it's like. Yeah, I'm not on it as much anymore because the way that platform works and just the way people have been on it a lot of the time, I'm just like, all right, I'll pop in and say something once in a while. But,
I saw one of your posts maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago where you said something like that, like just peeking in here, like, oh my gosh, I'm going back to TikTok because this is a joke here.
Yeah, it was just I just got on and just saw like 4 or 5 things that made me mad, and I was like, why am I on here? It just boils my blood. It's not fun. And of course, TikTok, you can find TikTok content that is upsetting to your sensibilities as well. But
absolutely.
And another thing I'm loving about TikTok too is it's not just the benefit of being a creator and getting a lot of discovery and exposure. I have been just following so many different types of people. Like obviously other puppeteers, it's really great to see different types of puppetry and unique puppetry especially. But it's also just like, there's comedians and voiceover actors and impressionists and artists and people that just like have funny thoughts, and people that do have like more like political or educational content. And it's just, I love it. And I'm like following over 1,000 people now just because I so enjoy the variety.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other nice thing about what I was saying before is when, if someone is doing really well on another platform, or I should say more focused on another platform, they're less likely to want to jump over to that new one. But because of that, you generally get a whole bunch of new people who couldn't break out in those other platforms because they were too late. They missed the gravy train. So those are the people that are more willing to try this thing. And then you do. There's new celebrities that are created through these platforms, and it just it's remarkable. It just kind of levels it out a little bit.
I agree completely. And I think you're right that all platforms start with an initial like higher level of reach, but I do think there's something about, it seems like there's more people on TikTok that have like 5, 10, 20, 30,000 followers or more, which is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, to get 10,000 followers.
Well, I'm going to say something that's going to be a little bit of a sneeze at. Here, I have a theory, and it's and this is going to sound like a negative to it, but it's not a negative. Which I'll also tell people why. I think they kind of do that on purpose in a way, because that makes people want to come back. People who can't get, it's hard. Again, it's really hard to start on these other platforms. If they can't get anybody, and just someone starts posting stuff, and they automatically, like you said, get 10,000 followers, they're going to use that more. So I feel like it's kind of that cycle to get people in more. And I think there's little sneaky things in the design that make it easier for that to happen, because I can't tell you how many times I've found out that I'm accidentally following these random people because of how easy it is to just add someone on the thing. But you can't unfollow them from there. You have to go to their profile thing. So like for that, so I'm like, I'm following this person. And it's just like, again, some dancer or something. Nothing against dancing. It's just not the kind of content that I absorb for fun. And it's like, oh gosh, that's interesting. So they have made it very easy to grow because they know that's what people want. Okay. But that being said, like you're saying, there's still a benefit to that. You still have these people in a way more likely to see your stuff. Now, just out of curiosity, because I was asking other friends about this too. When you use TikTok personally to absorb content, are you like strictly a For You page person, or do you also go to your following page?
I'm one of the I probably I feel a little bad admitting this, that I mostly am on the For You page. However, I do notice that the people I follow end up there quite a lot. Like I'll still see a lot of people. So I don't feel like I'm as like, as I want to support. Obviously, I follow someone, I like their content, I want to support them.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy the variety that, every 5-10 videos is someone I know and I can support them. And then the rest are, what is this? What am I going to see today? What's new? Which maybe is a drawback to the platform, because once someone's followed you, they may never interact with you again, and not even on purpose.
That's actually going back to the kind of point that I was trying to make as well, is where I feel like the followers, it means something different. It's not like having a follower on Instagram. It's not like having a follower on YouTube. To me, following someone is more like bookmarking them, right? Yeah. It's just like as a resource, or like, oh, I remember, like, I'm in the mood to watch this person, I'm going to go back and watching it. Something like that. Because I myself too, this is all anecdotal, but like, I'm never in my following page. Never. Yeah, never. I never. Neither am I. I'm always in the For You page, because again, I think that's why people like TikTok. It's that on YouTube, there's a suggestion bar on the side, but the fact that you still have to click on that suggestion. Yeah. Right? Generally. Yeah. I know they have the auto start too.
Yeah, but I don't use it.
TikTok, it's a roulette. It's like, do you know what it does? TikTok hacks in to the gambling in the back of people's head in a way that the other platforms haven't done, which I think is another big part about why TikTok is great. And one thing I'll say too, which I like saying to people, if you have a business of any kind, you have to be on TikTok. But it's good for everybody. Now, I was talking to Kelsey Brady before too, and she was the one Brady lady on TikTok. and she was saying it's like video potato chips, and it is.
Yes.
It very much is. You're right.
Oh yeah, I have had many times lately where I'm just like, I need to go. I need to leave my house right now, and I'm just scrolling on the For You page, and I haven't even put my shoes on. Like, what am I doing? And I think I think the addictive, because there are good and bad things, right? And so, an addictive nature, it can be fun, but it can be a drawback. And I've noticed it's also addictive to make things. If you get into a place of posting regularly, which I did, I just posted my 1,000th video on the platform today. Which means posting at the height of it, I was posting 5 to 10 videos a day, and most of them did pretty well at that time before the algorithm changed a little bit. And then I've had ups and downs, but I've posted at least once a day for over 6 months. And I think that's definitely been helpful with the growth, but I've definitely conditioned myself to enjoy the fun of, I have an idea, I'll shoot it, I'll put it out there. And sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it's a higher effort thing, but a lot of them are just, this is funny, or I saw this trending audio, I'm going to put a spin on it, throw it out there. And then you get the fun, the thrill of, what do people think about this? But now they're saying that you don't want to post as much. There seems to be some evidence from what I've heard of, like, people that analyze this stuff, that maybe posting quite as frequently as before is not as good for growth. And I'm like, I understand this intellectually, but it's just so fun that it's hard for me to not.
I wouldn't agree with that myself, just based on how all content generally works. You know, at the end of it's the same thing like with YouTube. People say, oh, what's the magic number for YouTube? For a lot of people say it's 10-minute videos. 10-minute videos are what you want to do. Like, it doesn't matter. The video can be 3 hours long. The video can be 2 minutes long. If it doesn't grab their attention and hold it, that's what matters. 90%, pretty much all these platforms, all they care about is retention. The length doesn't matter. I mean, generally people like shorter ones because you're more likely to have a better retention because of that. But at the end of the day, as long as it's entertaining and it's something of quality to that person, it'll do well no matter what. It wouldn't matter if you had a masterpiece and you posted one every hour. They'd probably all do well too. It's more about the content than it is about the quantity or something like that. Generally, I think.
Absolutely, I agree. And it that is the other thing too. Is I love the I know what has done better and worse for me. Generally, I can tell you what kind of videos like generally do better for me. But I also just love the freedom of it. I love that you can just have a funny little idea and put it out there. Maybe it does well, maybe it doesn't. But some people will see it, and if they follow you, they like it. And I enjoy that. I think that's something that I really enjoy about short form creation is that you can just have an idea and do it versus, I have an idea for a short film. I need to bring other people in on it. Because I'm sure, as you know, shooting, especially puppetry by yourself, when you're really trying to do I have my monitor set up and I'm trying to focus on my DSLR, and I'm like, oh, I need at least another pair of hands in here.
It can be a lot. That's how I convinced myself to start TikTok too, is because I literally just used it as a playground. It reminds me of like when I've done some writing for shows as well before, and I've taken writing classes, and they a lot of times in those writing classes they have you do like writing warm-ups, or even acting. You do acting warm-ups, right? So I would kind of try to use TikTok as my warm-ups, my creativity puppetry performing warm-ups. And especially in the beginning, I did a lot of family stuff too, just stuff like that too, just literally getting used to how it functions, the app itself. But that's what I recommend to people, even if they think they don't want to, I mean, that's another whole thing too. People are like, oh, I don't want to do another whole thing. I'm like, just play.
Yeah,
this one's fun.
It is.
Like Instagram again. That's the other thing. I've said this before, so sorry for people who have heard this already too, but like, it's the one platform where you don't start from zero as far as ideas. If you make a YouTube video, you have to come up with the idea, film the idea, and then put it out there. Same thing for Instagram. Film it, come up with the idea, film it, put it out there. TikTok, use somebody's audio, duet somebody, video reply a comment. I mean, like, there's almost no excuse to not have an idea if you're on TikTok. Not to mention, I mean, every day there's new trends, and if you want to grow fast, I mean, doing a trend is the best way to grow fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really fun, I mean, I love, as you were touching on, the collaborative nature. I mean, you see these like duets with like 10 musicians putting an accompaniment to someone who just like went on a rant, and they just like create the rhythm and the tone of it and create a song out of it.
Oh
Or
yeah.
you've got, it's got TikTok works really well for meme culture too, because you have that opportunity to recut an audio, mix it with something else, change the context. And in terms of trending audios with changing the context, I mean, that's what puppetry, you go back to the old Muppet sketches. The idea you sing a song, but because it's a puppet or because it's a puppet doing this activity, it changes what the song means.
Yeah.
And I love that that's still there. In terms of things that might change, one thing I wanted to talk to you about was, I don't know about you, but it's weird to be getting used to the mirrored phone video when I come from a background of puppetry with the monitor, the traditional monitor. And I know that now you've even got bigger programs like sending phones and puppets out to the puppeteers so they can film content at home while we're still social distancing to some degree and productions aren't fully back. It's like, are we going to get used to going the direction we're actually going? And because it was hard for me to do monitor when I did it again, I had to take a second to recalibrate my brain. Have you noticed?
No, that's a really good point. I don't know. I don't know if that'll be an interesting one, because from a production standpoint, you have to see what they see at home, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in when you're doing self-produced content, that does make it a little different, because again, when you're on a set, you and the director need to see the same thing. I think
so too.
Yeah, but that is a good point. And not to mention, what actually might change it the way you're saying it is, if this is how future generations are learning puppetry, that's what's gonna do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, which has been a really wonderful thing on TikTok, I have had countless, mostly younger folks, or whether it's actually kids or it's just people that are just getting out of performing arts college, or they're in a performing arts high school, or they're just interested in performing, ask me, how do I get into this? How do I do this? Anytime someone asks me how to build, I usually direct them to your YouTube, because your tutorials are amazing.
Thank you.
Of course. But it's just amazing to be getting to expose this art form to so many people who maybe didn't know fully what it was. What's the difference between ventriloquism and this? What's a marionette versus this kind of puppet? And I've done a lot of like educational, like, this is how and it's very basic stuff. People are like, how do you do 2 rods? I'm like, well, how often? And how much I had to search around when I started. I'm like trying to find a behind the scenes video where I can kind of see what they're doing with their hands so I could figure it out. And the fact that we can just go on and be like, hold it up, turn it around. This is how I do it. And this is how some other people do it. And this is like a couple techniques you could do. It's fascinating. But yeah, I think that it may change the perception of it a little bit in terms of how are they learning to do it? What are they going to be going into auditions with? What's going to be on their reels to start with? And is a lot of it going to be phone mirror content?
Yeah. And that's part of why I started creating my videos on how to do puppetry and make puppets and stuff too, just because I feel like, even for people who, like you're saying, people who want to get into it and do that, that's one thing too. But I think it's something everyone should at least try. I encourage my students at my school where I teach all the time too. I think there's so much to grow from just performing in general, can help someone grow as a person a lot. But I think puppetry has a unique ability to make them feel like it's not them, where people, they don't like, playing another character as themselves. So for that reason, but yeah, especially what you're saying as well. But actually, that kind of ties me into another thing I wanted to talk to you about, is because one thing that I really loved about what you were doing, which is something I've been trying to be a little bit of a silent advocate for myself, I guess, is really showing yourself a lot. There's a lot of puppet people that, for the same reasons I was just saying, they don't want to be seen. They just want it to be their puppet as the character, and they aren't usually themselves. But you do a lot of your videos also as yourself too. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came from a background, I was an actor and a comedian. And then shortly after I got out of performing arts college program, I found puppetry. And I was like, well, this is everything I love about performing. I can do voices, I can do physicality. I like working with my hands, and I love getting to play all different things. Because obviously as an on-camera or on-stage actor, I'm much more like, this is my type. Maybe I'll shave, maybe I'll dye my hair, maybe I'll do an accent, but mostly it's it's what you see. And with puppetry, you can be anything. But when I started doing TikTok, I knew, I was like, well, I sometimes just have an idea that works better as me. Or I don't want to get stuck behind the puppets, and I don't want to get stuck behind a certain character, which I think can easily happen if for example, like Bluesif is a character of mine that people really seem to respond to, and I love him. But I would be much less happy. I would gladly do, like, if he's the one that gets more views, that's great. But I still want to do the one with the other character that people don't know as well, or me. And I just like to think of it as like an ensemble, and I'm one of the characters too. And I like that. And I don't know. I guess I'm a little like, I just want to make sure I'm doing everything I want to be doing, especially on a platform that that's what it's meant for,
Well, I have two things to say for that. For one thing, obviously there are exceptions to this, but for people who want to grow their social media too, being able to show your face and talk as yourself is an important thing to do, because it's social media. It's about creating a connection with people, and the more that they can see you, I think that is an important thing to at least sprinkle in sometimes. And I think you do that really well. And the other thing, what was the other point I was going to make about that? Shoot, I can't remember.
Well, on that, I'll just say I've been thinking more and more about, let's look at the people that are the absolute like top of this platform, and really the top of most of these social media platforms. A lot of them, it's their persona. It's not just what they write or a character or a voice they do, or if it's a puppet or a costume or whatever. They get on there and they're just like, here's my thought on this. Here's what's going on in my life. And it might be heightened. It might be funny. It may still not be really who they are, but we get a sense of like, I'm with this person. I'm on this person's journey now. And I don't know when to start doing, like, I don't know if you want to try to get in with like the more performative and writing stuff and then like open up as you go, or if you want to start there. It probably is different for everybody, but I've definitely been trying to do a little more of that, just because I think that is what really resonates more than anything, is that once in a while people take the mask off and just go, this is a weird thought I had, and I'm not going to really produce it. I'm just going to say it to you in like a funny little way, maybe, or an interesting way, or even a sincere way. Sometimes it's just, hey, this is something I'm thinking about that's important to me, and I'm going to say it. And where that begins and ends with everybody is different. But that's something I've definitely noticed about most of the people that have like mega, like multi-millions of followings, is that there is that level of who they are in it.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, a lot of those types of personalities, like you're talking about, people feel like they're friends with these people, right?
Yeah.
And if they never get to really feel like it's really you talking, or if it's never you talking because it's just a puppet, it's harder to make that connection too. And then again, there are exceptions too, though, because people do love their characters.
Yes.
So So I would say, again, it's kind of about having that variety too.
Yeah.
Because it's a kind of a common mistake I see people do is when they make puppet content, they post it on all the puppet pages and stuff like that. It's like, you know what? I'm like, puppet people are not really your audience, right? Like you want the general public to be your audience, and the better you can connect with them and resonate with them and really show your authenticity, the better it'll serve you.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think I think even when people do, for example, mostly not show themselves, I think a lot of the pages that do really well with puppetry, they start to, it's almost never just one character. Even if there's a focal character, there's an ensemble around them, because then you can just have something you can pivot to. It's like you do the same voice for so long, it can get like, what else am I saying here? Or what's something new I can say? But if you have another voice you can go to, and I don't just mean a voice as in like I'm doing a voice, I just mean like a perspective. And really, I think as puppeteers, all of our characters are some piece of us, So people sometimes ask me questions about like the puppets' personal lives, and I'm like, that's not. It's their personal life is I take it off, and then I have a personal life, and then they exist doing what they do, and maybe that's just how I see it. But it's just like they exist as a piece of me expressing something at that moment. Not to get too ethereal with it, because it's not really. I'm not thinking that when I do it, but I think that's kind of what it is to me. But yeah, people can definitely and have fallen in love with characters. And I've been, most of my work before TikTok was I was a hired gun. I would go and I played characters for other people, and I did build puppets, which I sometimes got to perform, but a lot of time I was building them for someone else, or I build it and I perform it, but it isn't mine. I don't get to take it home. It's owned by the production now or the individual. And to have characters, I mean, the one guy, Isaac, the big furry guy with the one eye who has the thing, I built that guy 8 years ago. Wow. And he sat on my shelf. He was too I thought he was too scary for my kids shows. And I didn't really have much of a place for me to just do like my own sort of PG, like sort of content like that. And then I put him out. And not only did I put him out to freak people out, and then people loved him and they adored him. And I was like, oh, maybe he's kind of a baby of his species. And I developed this whole thing. Like these characters have gotten a whole life because of TikTok that I never thought that they would have. And that's really fun. And I've gotten to do what I love every single day since lockdown happened.
Yeah.
Which has been a real blessing.
No, that's a thing too, which I love that idea of it too, which I always recommend to people too. So many people are waiting for the next project rather than just like I said, do stuff, play. Again, TikTok's the perfect place to do it. But just going back to your puppets again, because one thing I've noticed is kind of a theme for most of them is they tend to operate in a way that you don't see a traditional puppet for these types of styles. Like Blue Sif's like this. Your other, I don't know his name, but he's like this.
Aranjo. He has like the little
Aranjo. And I'm sorry, that little bug when you just said his name. What's
Isaac.
His name?
Yeah. So
Isaac.
It's like Isaac
he's kind of like this. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of adapted like this sort of. I was like, well, this is how this puppet, like this glove puppet, works. I was like, well, what if I had an eye and that was, and I don't know. Like I'm sure everything's been done before, but I love finding a way that I can't really remember seeing a lot of puppets that operate that way. Yeah. And trying to build something around that. And I do think it's kind of fun. And there's like a mystery to it too, because I do love being transparent. I've always been like, look, they're real when they're like having a sketch, but they're still puppets. And I've always been like an education person. Like anytime I've worked with kids, if a kid thinks a puppet's real, cool, I'll roll with it. But if they're like, that's a puppet, I'm like, yes, and you could do this too. Yes. Let me empower you and acknowledge you. And that's true of people that are adults who are just interested in how it works. And I do like, though, that sometimes people are like, how do you make that guy move? Yeah. And then I usually tell them, but it is fun that there's like a sense of, wait a minute, how is that working? And I try to find that. I haven't thought of a new way to move my hand in the last little bit ever since I have to find another way, I guess. I try to find another one, but
I think that's what makes yours a little bit compelling too, because it is, it's similar in a lot of ways, but it does have that little difference to it. And something about the way your puppets are built, it's very, very endearing in a way, and the way that they're built, along with the way you perform them, which is also generally with you also in frame. It's almost like a Mr. Rogers-y kind of feel that I get from it, which is, I think that's something that people, whether they make that connection or not, it's something about it is endearing it a little bit in a way. And especially even again, the way that you dress in it too is sometimes a little quirky, in kind of a way, again, almost like a modern Mr. Rogers kind of way, if he was, in his late 20s and on TikTok.
yeah. Well, thank you. That's an enormous compliment coming from you, and I really appreciate that. And yeah, it is. I mean, I think that is definitely something that's there. Like what you're mentioning is the fun of having these two people. I will say, hey, I have really come to appreciate ventriloquists because I don't do ventriloquism, but even just like if I'm lip syncing to something and Blue Sif is doing one emotional reaction and I'm doing another, and I realize I just map what they're doing. That's my default, is I'm just doing what they're doing, and I'm like, oh no, I have a different opinion about it though, or we're looking at each other, and it's like those things. Anytime it's both of us, I'm shooting that like 10 times, 20 times sometimes.
No, it's so funny you say it, because I brought that up. We interviewed Terry Fader, who's a world-renowned ventriloquist about a year and a half ago. I think we had him on the podcast, and I mentioned that. I said, I argue that ventriloquists have to be like some of the best actors, because again, like you said, puppetry usually is an extension, an exaggeration of the emotion that you're happening. Whereas not only do you have to have a different emotion with ventriloquism, but generally you have to have the opposite emotion. Maybe your puppet is mad and yelling at you, and you have to act scared when
Yeah.
you're the one, making those sounds and whatnot. So, but yeah, again, it's not as much of a pill to swallow for lip syncing to a TikTok video, but
Right.
it is it's a different type of mindset,
Yeah.
And my good friend, I don't know if you're friends with him. He's doing really well on TikTok now as well. My good friend Landon Harvey, who is a ventriloquist, and he's killing it on TikTok too. And he's
Awesome.
he's doing the same kind of thing too, where he's really a lot of himself, which is I think that's part of why he's doing so well.
Well, yeah, I think so too. I think people do want to see that, and they want to connect to that, and they want to feel like even when, like, there's this weird thing of like, even when it's just a video of the puppet, they're like, but we know Chris is there, and we can ask him questions, and we can ask where the other puppets are. I will say it's so funny to me. People are like, where's this puppet? And I'm like, in a video I posted 20 minutes ago. Like, I just posted one.
That's right.
Although I have a lot of characters that have been on TikTok at one point or another, and sometimes like I'm just like, I don't have any ideas for that guy. I can't explain it. I can only make things I have ideas for. So if it was a really specific, I made like a COVID character, a COVID puppet, and I did a bunch of videos with it when I first made it.
I think I saw it. Yeah,
and it was fun, and it was fun as I built it out of like stuff from the dollar store. It was a really quick thing, but it was really effective, and but I haven't used him very much in a while because it's just like we've kind of, what else is there to say about it? For me, I just haven't had any ideas where I was like, yeah, it'd be funny to have a COVID puppet in this. Like so he's just sitting in my kitchen staring at me collecting dust right now. But yeah, that was fun.
Has creating all this content on TikTok inspired you to start a new project on your own outside of TikTok?
Definitely. Well, I as I said, I was really into YouTube for a long time as a kid, and I no longer have the channel that I had when I was young, so I have this one now, and I've been able to push it from 60 subscribers back in March to like 1,300 from TikTok, and I haven't made a video lately, but I've been trying to look into doing more like longer form, more ambitious things, and just have that dimension to what I do. And also, in conjunction with TikTok, I've been doing kids shows via Zoom, and I did like 20 weeks of a Facebook Live. I don't do it anymore, but every Saturday I did a different show, and I ran out of things I had pre-written, like 6 weeks in. So for 14 weeks, I wrote a different half-hour show every week, and some of them incorporated some of the puppets that I have from TikTok. Some of them were more puppets that I use for the kids shows. There's sort of two separate worlds, but they're sort of combined. Like Lucky Duck, the little duck character, is sort of my main kids character, but people love him on TikTok too. And it's definitely just, I think what you were talking about, where you're kind of priming the creative pump in a way. If you're just coming up with something every day, and even if it's just, how do I spin this new trend? Because I'll find a trending audio and I'm like, but what's my context? What can I say that's funny that complements this or works against it? And when you get yourself doing that all the time, I think it puts you in a place where the few times I've worked on creative things with other people, I have felt like very energized and very collaborative, because you're also just excited for like, oh, you have an idea too? Great. It's not just me. I can build on what you're doing. Which is a lot of fun. So yeah, it definitely has. And I've been writing more, and I've built several puppets just because, I have an idea and I have an audience now. So I want to build this. Bluesif was built since I got on TikTok, for example, and the reception to him has been so wonderful.
That's amazing. Yeah, these virtual shows that you were doing before, were those public virtual shows or were they private?
The Facebook ones were. So I did 20 weeks every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. On Facebook Live doing a show. And then in addition, I've done like over 100 shows via Zoom privately for birthdays, schools, daycares, various events like that, and places like that. And they were, I was really busy with them like March, April, May when it was new. And now I still do like quite a few, but just not as many. I just did one today, actually. And those are mostly private. I just, the Facebook show, I had some in-person work coming up. I was a little bit busy, and it was like, well, I hit 20 episodes. I'm like, that's a really good round number. That's basically a season of a TV show. I'm going to call it there. And then I might bring them back. If I have a little bit of time But
Sure,
you
yeah,
know,
or even for stuff like that, like rather than you were doing it weekly, what if it's a monthly thing or
yeah,
once every a quarterly thing, something like that? It's nice to keep that kind of buzz and have content that people can kind of, as kind of like a tester, a free sample that you
yeah.
get at the store, which is kind of nice. No, that's really awesome. Has now when you were doing has many of these gigs, these virtual gigs, come from TikTok, or they just come with like past clients and word of mouth?
A few have, and I also do. I started selling like video greetings from the puppets, and I've gotten
Ooh,
quite a few of those where it's just like a 1 minute or like up to a 1 minute long video, whatever puppet you want, saying pretty much whatever you want, as long as it's not crass or in any way corporate.
sure.
Um, and those are really great because they're relatively easy to produce. They're they're high value because you get to have a character that you like. Apparently, people, I don't, it's weird to talk about it yourself, but I know that there are lots of people who have affection for some of these characters of mine, and to get to have them do that. But with the Facebook stuff, it was a combination of doing the Facebook live shows got me the private gigs, and then also just running ads. I ran ads on Facebook, Google, and Instagram. I found Facebook and Google to be a little bit better for what I'm doing in terms of the kind of attention that it was getting, and then word of mouth, and then some people who had booked me in the past. But now it's at a point where it kind of, I have like a constant like Google ad running, and traffic to my website, and referrals and reviews and stuff. So it's sort of, I almost don't even have to think about it too much anymore, which is nice.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Now have you? So obviously, a lot of people have been using the. Well, here's the thing. A lot of these social media platforms have evolved to have very specific uses. Kind of like we were talking
Yeah.
before. Are you saying like, and not as interested in Facebook anymore, and the demographics a little bit different, and the demographics on all of them are very different, like you say too. But also, I noticed they really have very different uses.
Yeah.
Whereas for at least the way I use them and have had has been working for me, I should say, is YouTube as a publishing platform. Okay, Facebook as a community platform, so people who want to connect and ask questions, like that's the best place to do that in like a Facebook group. Instagram more as a portfolio of
Mm-hmm.
work, and TikTok as not as reach, because it has the reach like you're saying, and the and play in
Yeah.
that same kind of way. So what I'd ask you is, since starting TikTok and doing well there, has it changed the way you use these other social medias, or not yet, or will it soon?
Definitely it has. I mean, I've become much more active because
Yeah.
I've been able to, fortunately there's a certain percentage of the people that follow me on TikTok who are enthusiastic about the things I do enough to follow me elsewhere.
Yeah.
And what was really fun is, initially to kind of boost my reach and boost the enthusiasm for Instagram and YouTube, I had done like little like live streams to celebrate when I hit certain milestones and things like that. And I definitely try to post to Instagram almost every day if I can get myself to. And I put a lot of my TikTok videos on the story, which seems to do well there. Like people seem to like seeing those there. And then with YouTube, it's just made me try to go, okay, well, I wanted to do a YouTube video a week, but now I'm trying to do at least like a couple a month, where it's like, all right, well, if you think about it, I make way more content in terms of like minutes on TikTok than I'm even looking to put on YouTube at the moment.
Yeah.
So I should be able to like buckle down and make like, 4 to 10 minutes of something every few weeks on YouTube, just so that way I can continue to grow there. But I've definitely been just more active and more interested in kind of just having that presence be a little more rounded out. If for no other reason than that, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. TikTok.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
TikTok's been a little bit.
It's been a little shaky.
Yeah.
Has been a little shaky. Has been a little shaky lately. I have
Yeah.
a feeling it's here for the long haul. But time will tell. Time will tell.
And there's also the question of what is it going to look like in the long run? Because
Yes.
a year from now, it could just be, we'll be talking about the good old days of like, remember when TikTok was so fun and now XYZ happened and it's different. So, I don't really have, I mean, as grateful as I am for how well the platform has done for me lately, it's not like that company is really where I'm loyal to where can I put my stuff and have people enjoy it.
Absolutely too, and not only well, kind of like you're saying, like where will it be a year from now? It was very different a year ago, not just in the reach. That's kind of what brought me back to it because I used it for about 4 months, and then I kind of stopped after January, and then kind of in quarantine, kind of started up again, and then stopped for a while, then came back again, and it is very different in a lot of ways in the things that's expanded into letting you do because since last year they've added the top and bottom duets. Before you used to
Yeah.
only be able to do it the one way, the video replies, like I was saying, and just a bunch of other little things like that you almost take for granted now that really have expanded the platform into making content more easily, or at least a variety of different types of content.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
And
who knows
that's
what it'll look?
fun.
That's my point. Is who knows what it'll look like a year from now too? It'll be interesting. I've heard people talk about like, they wish it had some other features that some other ones have. Like I wish I could post photos, or if there
Sure.
was longer form or your lives, could you post them to your feed in some way so people can go back and watch them, which would be handy for some things. So yeah, again, it'll be really interesting to see what it turns into in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I wanted was just kind of in terms of features. Sometimes you find that people start messing with some of the features, and it can affect the puppetry stuff. Like there's a few accounts where people are using the mirror, where it's doubling the one side of the frame,
Mm.
and then they use their hands to create like faces or figures, and it's like, wow, that is really interesting and unique looking, and that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for vertical frame and then mirroring it, which obviously those
Yeah.
things existed before, but putting them together and making them so accessible that you can just turn it on
Yeah.
is really neat. And then you've also got just the way that these trends, you've got people trying, okay, how do I put this trend? How do I make a puppet do this trend? And then sometimes I've seen really viral videos with like people just taking objects and manipulating them. And I just comment the word puppetry sometimes. So I'm just like, I just want everyone to know that's what's happening here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this person may not be a puppeteer, but they were in this video. And sometimes it's really good. It's like, oh, the way you moved that, that stick or that dollar, or that water bottle it was compelling. It wasn't just you shaking it around. It looked like it was going through the journey. And so that's what's so fun is people can just like stumble into it, and it's like,
Yeah.
hey, you're part of this world now in a little way.
No,
I think,
absolutely. Absolutely agree with you on that too. One thing this always has me thinking about too is, so with what you're doing now on TikTok, do you have a goal in mind, or is it just kind of naturally go? Is there something you're aiming toward to happen with all the content you've been creating over the last 6 months or so?
well, I definitely would love. I mean, the idea of getting to develop something a little more involved with some of the characters that I've done, whether that's maybe trying to write a stage show that's for older audiences. Not like, I don't think that I'm specifically like adult, I try to keep it PG for the most part, but I don't know. I've trying to been finding that line because I came from a background of doing a lot of kids entertainment.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, being on TikTok, if you want to be on the trends and if you want to be connecting to people, you got to push the envelope a little.
Yeah.
My characters don't really swear, for example,
Yeah.
but we may make innuendo. We might use a song that has a swear in it, but it's not like the focus of it. So it's almost like you don't notice, things like that. But the idea of like writing something for, like teens into adults with these characters would be really fun. Like writing some kind of a show, doing longer form stuff, like on YouTube or some other platform like that would be great. And then just, there is room to create, there are ad deals, there is merch, and those are like things that are kind of in the works for me. And
Yeah.
I'm a freelancer. My goal has always been, I will do anything I can that applies my skill set to keep my lights on. And so as the world opens back up and productions start again, I may have less time for content creation, but I would love if it got to a point where, okay, well, if I spend a certain amount of time, I'm going to get a certain amount back.
Yeah.
And that's not to say it's all about money. The idea is I love what I do and I want to connect with people, but we live in a society where, we got to pay rent and buy food. So the more that I can grow things to the point where I'm able to do that a little bit, then the more options it opens up for me. to spend more time doing something that I created
Mm-hmm.
versus being dependent on other people telling me when I can and can't work. And
Yeah.
as grateful as I am for my experiences working in television, film, and stage, at the end of the day, as you know, someone can always say the show's over.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you don't own that puppet. You don't have the right to that character. And so it's very important to me, whether it's just something that I'm doing on the side or if I can ever grow it into something I'm doing more focally, to have characters and ideas that are mine and that I get to really share with people from a place of wanting to. And yeah.
That's really interesting too. Yeah, I mean that's the hardest thing, and with all this, is finding a way to monetize, what you're doing on your own, especially when it's virtual, because there is a I kind of want to say stigma, or there's just this expectation people have of online content being free because of platforms like YouTube and Facebook videos and even TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
and even though being on these platforms and doing these puppet things for free is what gets you to this level to be able to have this reach, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like that kiss of death in a way, because you wouldn't, if it wasn't free, you wouldn't have the dirty word, the exposure. Okay.
Right.
But however, if it wasn't, it would really, I mean, if there was a paywall, no one would ever see it. You have no chance. So really, at the end of the day, I guess what I would say to that is, at the end of the day, the content is king, right?
Yeah.
If we, either one of us or any of us, anyone doing puppets or really any art form on TikTok, create something that resonates enough that people need more. They don't want more. They need more. That's where you're in a position to develop something yourself and hopefully be able to monetize it to another level. And that's it's hard to. It's two things. It's hard. First of all, it's hard to create that, because you don't never know what's going to resonate with people. Because I don't know about you. One thing, sometimes I make a video or a TikTok. I'm like, oh God, this one's not going to do well, and then it like does amazing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's the whole thing too. Is people always second guessing themselves, or so over editing things for so long to make it perfect, and then they release it and it doesn't do well. Because that's another whole thing too. Is like, what's perfect for you might not be perfect for the audience, and what's perfect for the audience might not be perfect for you. So it's better just to ship whatever you're creating. Because one thing I like to say too is, the more ideas you put out, the more that you let in. You have to have that revolving door of ideas and creativity is I think where most people find the best success. But yeah, that's what it is. I mean, that's the magic sauce, is being able to create that thing that resonates with people enough that you can monetize it based on that content alone.
I agree. I mean, to speak a little bit about what you were saying in terms of the revolving door, is I think about it like, I feel like that I've been waiting for a platform like TikTok in that sense, because when I used to make YouTube videos, I'd get an idea and then I'd go shoot it. It's like a 6-minute, 7-minute short idea that I had, and then I edit it. Like, I wouldn't sleep, especially if it was like summertime and I was in high school or whatever. I wouldn't sleep until it was done, and then I'd upload it. And then typically I'd be like, oh, I really wish I had sat on this for another day or two, because there's all these little things I would have done differently. But with things being so short, there's a lot less opportunity for that, right? If I were to quickly edit something that's 7 minutes long, there's so much more opportunity for mistakes that I would. So it does make sense to hang on to them for a little longer and then release them if you can. But then I would just be like, what's the next thing? And whether it does well or not, like, I'm excited, because if it does well, then I want to make more. And if it doesn't, then I want to make something that does. But yeah, I mean, there's a few different avenues. One avenue for monetization that doesn't really change what anybody's doing per se, except maybe you do more, is ad revenue sharing. And TikTok has started doing that. And I do think that that's base level, because at the end of the day, the platform has value, but the creators have value. And our content's what's keeping people on there. And so we should have some portion of what's being generated. And that's what YouTube does. And that's what I think Facebook does it too. But I
mean, one thing I just jump into there too, because I don't know if it's true, but I've seen a lot of the people I see the TikToks come down where it breaks down like what you get per view and stuff, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like it's nothing.
Yeah, no, it's
Like
very small.
like it's like you could never really. I mean, I'm talking about millions and millions and millions of views, and just getting like $2,000 or something, right? And it's like it seems like it'd be very hard to make a living off of just shared revenue based on views. Like I think it's really got to be, again, if you look at a lot, same thing with even YouTube and things like that. You look at these big creators like Mr. Beast and all these other people, like they make the most of their money with the merchandise and things like that, right?
Yeah.
With these brands that they create. That's where you really, like, you're getting for the views, you're getting fractions of a penny per fractions of a penny per 100 views, okay? Whereas with one sale, you're getting dollars or tens of dollars per sale. So if you can really maximize that's where it is. But then again, one thing I wouldn't want to give people too much hope on for that, you making the merch isn't enough. I see so many people that make the merch, put up the shirts or the plushes, but then like they have to want it.
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about before, is creating that piece of content or that character that resonates with people. It has more, it's more than just that character. And that's the only way, I think.
I agree completely. I mean, I'm like getting merch together very slowly, and part of it has just been other things have been on my plate, so I haven't really driven forward to it. But part of it's also been like I want to wait. I've been having people, some number of people have been like, I want this character on a shirt or on a sticker, like for months. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna wait until there's more of you, because it's not worth it to do it, and then because you have to think only a percentage of those people are going to actually follow through.
Yeah.
And you've got to, how are you going to source things? Are you going to have things printed to order? Are you going to be managing, I certainly don't want to be managing too much. It's like, oh, I got into being a puppeteer and now I'm managing retail stock or all of a sudden. But it's part of the job if you have to do it. And then there's also, I mean, there are, if you get a lot of reach, there's also brand deals, but there's always a blowback from that anytime. So it's like, you want those, but first of all, you have to make sure you're getting compensated fairly. And then it's also like, you're going to have a certain number of people who are like upset with you for making like one video. I've seen that on a lot of bigger creators, but mostly people are understanding.
I think I was gonna say, I think that's I mean, definitely earlier with other platforms that used to be like had a stigma to it too, right?
Yeah.
I think people they get it. That's how this creator has to do this so that I can absorb the content from them that I like, since I'm not paying for it, right? I think that it's commercials. I mean, there's always commercials on TV for us growing up. So I think people are starting to get aware with that. But you're right. That's another huge financial opportunity for people is some sort of brand deals. But again, those can be hard to get, and it's hard to know like what to charge for stuff like that too.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, it is for sure. And I mean, I think though, I will say I've seen like a lot of companies with like going with people that have like under 100K followers. And I don't know that they're getting a lot of money, but like, hey, a little bit. Like, I guess that's the other thing too. As I said, I come from this freelance background. I haven't had a full-time job in like 7-8 years. It's all been, I mean, I've had like full-time contracts for periods of time for like a few months maybe, or half a year at the most. But I'm always in freelance mode. And so for me, I'm like, well, if I have the time and I get that's one little trickle, then there's another trickle, then I get that and that. And so I think that's the sort of the mindset you have to have, not even if you want to make a living, but if you just want to make something, is like, get as many things going at a reasonable point. Don't start up, you have 500 followers and you're like, well, here's my shirts. You know what I mean? Like, you want to wait, but you have those opportunities. But I think it's very hard to become a full-time content creator. I love what I do too much to really even want to ever stop. So I have no desire to stop working on stage film projects anyway. So I'm just like, even if that was the position I was in, I'd probably still be doing other work just because I love it so much. So I just want it to be enough that I can spend a reasonable amount of time on it, and not feel like, oh, I really should be spending this on, other more traditional things. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because that's exactly my feeling as well. Most people know this. I have a full-time job during the day. I'm an elementary school art teacher, and I wouldn't give that up to do
social media full time or puppetry
Right.
full time in that type of way. I really like having that balance. It's what keeps the puppetry and the building fun for me as an outlet, rather than something that I have to do to pay my bills this month. It keeps it. I like kind of keeping it separate like that, and that's really important to me. And I think it's a good thing for people to have too, because you're right. Because if it is just doing that, like, part of what makes social media interesting is, in a way, you're documenting things that you're doing. And if all you're doing is creating social media, like, what are you really creating, in a way? It's not
Yeah.
impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible, but, like, again, it just seems like a wormhole of that leads to kind of nowhere, in a way.
And I think you can look at a lot of people that have gotten big on a lot of different platforms and for years, and then look at where some of them have gone, where it's gotten aimless, it's gotten repetitive, it's caused issues with their personal lives. I mean, there's a unideal side to this stuff. We're all like so voraciously chasing the views and everything, but then it's just like, well, hey, are you prepared to, like, maybe have a lot of people watching what you do very closely? And then B, now you got to say something to them, which I do think it helps if you come from an entertainment background. I will say.
Yes. That barrier is easier to break, especially with presenting yourself, like we were talking about before.
Yeah, it's easier to just be like, well, I'm used to, like, you do comedy, you act, you write, you do puppetry, whatever it is. You're used to, like, I'm creating a thing and I know how to handle myself in front of an audience to some degree. Versus, I think people, they blow up and they have no background in this. And I'm not gatekeeping. I think it's great if people can do that. And sometimes maybe that resonates in a different way. That is harder for someone who's coming at it more purposefully to do. But you can sometimes see people be like, well, what do we do now?
Yeah.
How do we be funny? How do we act? Like, we just did this one thing and it blew up, and now I have to try to sell a situation that I'm constructing when maybe they don't have any real experience doing that outside of the one idea. And I think that can be challenging. But then also, I think some of it is more like a reality TV persona, where you're just kind of an interesting version of yourself in different situations.
No, absolutely too. And again, I would, like you said, without the gatekeeping, I would really encourage people who even don't see themselves that way, or being able to do that, to try anyway.
Yeah.
Because that's how you learn to do it. Like, again, not to say that I'm great at it by any means, but if you look at my first puppet building tutorial that I did like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, it was a while ago. It's hard to watch. It's hard for me to watch, and a lot of people still watch it. And it's I learned by doing it. Like puppet building, the first puppet you make is gonna not be that great.
Yeah.
I learn something every single time I do it. It's the same with presenting yourself and learning how to talk to a camera, which is not something that's intuitive in any way. Treating like there's people there when it's just you're talking to nothing, a wall essentially, and that takes practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people see where people are now instead of seeing where they came from, or they get caught up with people that have more of a gift for it, like you were saying. And I would encourage people to just start.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done a couple of tutorial videos because people ask how I make my puppets, and I've done just some of the simplest ones just because I'm like, well, hey, this is something anyone can do with very little experience. And in one case, one of them was one of the first puppets I had built. And so I love the idea of, like, that these platforms can empower people. I've seen so many people getting on TikTok and, they're putting like a pair of sunglasses on their hand or something, and they're just, that's a character now. And I find that absolutely wonderful, because it's like, look, the barrier is so low. You can make your hand move and you can tell a story with it. And I love that. And it doesn't have to be that that's going to be your full-time pursuit. It might be, it might not be. There may be other things, but for sure, the barrier to entry, I like keeping it as low as possible and making this art form and, anything like that as accessible as possible.
No, I totally agree. I think that's a pretty good place to wrap up too. Is there any final things you'd like to say to people that are watching now or watching later?
Well, feel free to come check me out on TikTok. As we've talked about, I try to have a lot of fun over there. And I just want to say thank you, Adam, so much for having me. It's been a blast getting to talk to you about all this stuff.
No, absolutely. It's been a blast for me too. And for people who are watching, yes, our TikTok handles. If you want to definitely check out Chris's stuff, it's Puppets by Palmieri. At Puppets by Palmieri on TikTok, and make sure you get a chance to check out his website too. What's the URL for it again? I brought it up right here.
It's chris-palmieri.com.
That's right. Yeah, chris-palmieri.com. It shows a lot of his work that he's done, a lot of his professional work, some of his acting stuff. You can learn a lot more about him there. And anyway, again, Chris, thanks so much for coming on, and I hope people definitely check it out. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.